Welcome to the Land of House channel. I'm Seth. This is the Hovsco HovAlpha 26-inch electric bike. I have now put 60 miles on this in the past month, and it's time to do my update review on what I think about this bike. So let's go ahead and jump into this review. The motor on this bike is a 750 watt Suto hub motor, which means your motor is right here, built in between the spokes of the back wheel. It has disc brakes on both the front and the back, which seem to be quite responsive. And it does have gears that you can change to assist you going up the hill and also let you coast smoothly downhill. 26-inch by 4-inch tires help you to go over all kinds of different terrain. I've been able to handle both road biking and also off-road with this bike, and it has done well. The fenders are not required, but I've installed those to help keep some of that splash back from whenever I go through creeks. I've got those on both the front and the back. Now the front of this bike does have these shocks, which can be locked down if you want to. The back does not have any shocks. The fat tires do help to absorb some of the shock as you're riding, but I have found that this bike being so heavy, it can kick you around pretty good if you're doing any kind of jumping off of rocks. So definitely keep that in mind. By default, this is a Class 2 e-bike, which means you can go up to 20 miles per hour. If you log into the app, you can then turn this into a Class 3 e-bike and go 28 miles per hour. I have found on most of the trails around here, 20 is plenty fast enough, but whenever I hit the road, there are some times that I like to go 25 or even 28 miles per hour. Now the battery included with this e-bike is a 960 watt hour, 48 volt, 20 amp hour lithium ion battery. To charge it, you remove this stopper up here, and it has a barrel plug in there. It does make a nice firm connection so that water won't be splashing up into that. If you turn this to the bottom, there is a light panel, which you press this button over here on the side. It has 4 settings: low, medium, high, and then a blink. Turn that off. Now if I move over here, there's an option to see state of charge. Probably hard for you to see in this light, but it's got red and then 3 green bars right up there. Now in order to lock this into the bike, it does come with a key. I have the key right here. So let's go ahead and install this into the bike. To get the battery installed, there is a rubber stopper that goes towards the bottom of the bike. So you place the battery in here first, all the way to the end, and whenever you push this, it will lock into position. There is a tab right here you can turn, and that will free the battery up. But you also have the key on the back that keeps this locked tight. Whenever you turn this key, it will have a post that comes out and lock that battery so it won't be falling out. Now with the battery installed, I can press and hold the on button right here, and that will turn on the display. As you can see right here, it may be scrolling for you, but it doesn't do that to the human eye. Now there are passes up here, as you can see. So if I press the positive button right here, it will do pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it stops there. That is the amount of assistance that this bike will give you as you're pedaling. So 1 is the least amount of assistance. 0, of course, means you're pedaling on your own, which for a bike this heavy is not easy. Of course, you got your miles per hour down here and your current trip distance. So very cool. So over here on the display, there's also a light button. So right here on the front is a light. If I hold that button down, it will turn that on. It's not super bright, but it is enough to get you out of a dark spot. So let's go ahead and turn that off. There we go. So I have found myself to enjoy somewhere around the pass number 4. And that way it gives me a pretty good bit of assistance there. Speaking of assistance, if you use the pedals, it has a torque sensor, which means as you push down on that pedal, it will give you more and more assistance based upon the pressure that you put into it. So if you want to go kind of slow, then you just pedal slowly without much force, and it will give you a certain amount of speed. Or if you push hard upon it, it will give you a lot more power. So that's how you use the assist, but you can also press this little throttle right here and the e-bike will power itself and you don't have to pedal at all. Like I said before, it has disc brakes, which are found in your typical spot for brakes up here. Now this is my first e-bike to ever use, and so I have nothing to compare it to, but I can say that I have thoroughly enjoyed putting the first 60 miles on this bike. Miles that would have been pretty difficult to ride otherwise if it wasn't an e-bike. So I have a few things that I don't care as much about though on this bike that I wanted to mention. First of all, the seat is semi-comfortable for riding on the road, but as soon as you start hitting bumps, this thing becomes uncomfortable pretty quick. So I would probably want to put a thicker seat or a good pad on there. Also, the handlebars have a notch on them, and that kind of is comfortable for a while, but after about 45 minutes of riding, it gets kind of tiresome. So I don't know, I feel like the handle could use a little bit of an adjustment there to make that more comfortable. The next thing that I have noticed, which was painful immediately, is that this bar right here is pretty high. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. I hopped on this bike and went for a ride, and then I jumped off, and as you can see, there's not a lot of clearance between the bike and myself, and so it woke me up pretty quick. So my suggestion is when you hop off of this bike, always lean far to the side before you climb out. So you can either swing a leg back over the back, or a bit more awkwardly, you can pull it through there. They make a bike that does not have this bar, or it is a lot lower, and that would probably be my suggestion. I'm 5'11". The bike says that it will work down to 5'3", but I have a friend who is about 5'3", and he did not fit. So I would say with this bike, you probably want to be closer to the 5'8" to 6 foot to comfortably use this if you have to jump off like I just did. So those are my main three things that I feel like this bike could use a little adjustment on. Now for things that I do like about this bike, the kickstand does not get in the way of the pedals, which is really nice. So if you have to swing those around a little bit, you can keep your kickstand down and not worry about it interfering with that. The mud guards that are included have been very handy because I have been through some mud and it did not kick that up onto me. The front shocks are definitely nice to have because I hit some pretty serious ruts, and that gave and helped me not to be jarred around. Disc brakes, very nice. I've never had a bike before that had both front and rear disc brakes, and had no issues whatsoever on that. Now the torque here is very nice. It will definitely push you whenever you push the pedal. But if you push the pedal to go, but also push the throttle, it's going to pick one or the other. And so you have to be careful whenever you decide to zip across a street. If you've pushed the pedal and then push the throttle, sometimes it'll slow you back down to 0, and you have to really watch out for that. What happened was, I thought I had plenty of time to go, and an 18-wheeler or a dump truck was coming real fast, and I kind of freaked, and I had my hands on the brakes, which was good. So whenever I went to go, the bike took off, that truck came around the corner, I grabbed the brakes, and the whole bike did one of these things. And I grabbed it and pulled it off the road and survived. But be careful if you're going to use one or the other for taking off from a stop. I did run out of battery on one of my trips, and this bike is extremely heavy to pedal if you're going uphill without that battery power. So make sure that you're not going to be stuck on a hill somewhere having to pedal this. It was to the point where I had it in first gear and I was standing up on the bike and having to push that way. So going downhill, you have plenty of speed, but going uphill, very slow. All right, that's enough chit chat. Let's talk about the ride itself, and then I'll bring you along with the GoPro for a much longer ride. So let me go ahead and turn the bike on, and I'll show you an acceleration here on a pretty steep hill. So let's go ahead and move this up to pass number 5, and I am just going to push the throttle and see how well it handles this hill. So as you can see, this thing will take off even on a hill, so be careful. Now I'm not going to touch that, and I'm just going to use the pedals, and I'm in 6th gear, so it's a little bit high. Hold on. All right, this time I'm going to bring the pedal up to the top here, Now I'm in 5th gear, which is too high to be doing this on this hill, but let's go ahead and see how well it starts off without touching the throttle, but doing the pedal assist. There we go. All right, so as you can see, even with the pedal assist, and I've got this on gear 5, it still takes this hill pretty quick. I'm swapping this over to the GoPro so you can see what I see here. And I've got you in the super wide angle so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. So first of all, swinging up over the bike here. Now I will say that when you first get used to this bike, it's a bit of a shock how fast it will take off whenever you begin pedaling. So let's go ahead and turn this on. All right. Like I said, it's going to flash for you here, but it's not flashing to the naked eye, so just keep that in mind. All right, let me go ahead and get you up on the head mount here. All right, so currently on the screen, I've got it set to pass 0. I'm going to kick this up to pass number 4, and that should get us going here. All right, hopefully you can see the bike well enough there. All right, whenever I begin pedaling, it will kick me really fast into gear here. So it went from 0 to 18 miles per hour just like that. And I just took this hill. You can see I have very minimal pedaling going on. And I can kick this up to gear number 7 and really hit the speed. So as you can see, when it comes to gravel road riding, it's pretty smooth. If I hit some bumps, it is going to kick the chain around some and also cause your bounce on the seat to be pretty extreme. I've definitely had to learn to be careful and lift up when I do that. Now on a hill like this, pulling both of the disc brakes at the same time is a must. If I just pull one or the other, I have to really squeeze hard to get this bike to slow down. It is quite heavy, pushing around that 70-pound mark. All right, here's a good example of taking a grass trail. It's very smooth on this one. This bike handles basic gravel roads and grass trails very nicely. We'll do a little bit of road riding up here, and then I will take off onto a trail, and you can see how this bike performs on that. It is pretty bumpy on the back seat if you aren't really paying attention to hit a good-sized bump. So I've found whenever I'm ready to take off, I bring my dominant foot pedal up, and then whenever I go to kick off, it will kick into gear there, just like that. go ahead and move this up to 7th gear. And you'll see pretty quick that once I hit 20 miles per hour, it's going to limit down the bicycle. So I'm coasting now at 24, but as soon as I try to pedal, it pulls it back down to 20. Now, I don't think this bike was intended for a trail this steep, but I'm gonna give it a try anyhow. I've got it down in gear 1, and I am giving it some pretty good pedal power here to get up this, because it is quite steep. I'm probably gonna have to get off and walk here in just a bit. Maybe not, I might make it. Let's see how we do. Should we go that way? Or back up here? That's gonna be pretty tough down there. Let's go this way. See how far we can make it up this hill. Crank that up to pass number 5. Nope, didn't quite make it. All right, well, this hill is too steep for this bike. Let me walk it up here to the back to the main trail. That was some hill. All right, put the kickstand back up there, climb aboard, and let's continue on. As you can see, the e-bike has handled trails and back roads very nicely, but I believe it's time for us to head into town and give this a try where I feel like the majority of people will be using this e-bike, and that's stopping and starting at roads and stoplights. So, and we also have to do a test to show how using just the throttle and not the pedal assist is going to work. It's possible that using the throttle is going to be your best bet for stopping and starting from stoplights and crosswalks. I have the bike on pass 1, which means it will not produce much pedal power, but if I push the throttle, it's going to go up to full speed. So let's give that a try here from a stopped position. There you go. That's how easy it is. Now I can let loose and then do pedal assist. After driving for 9.6 miles, I've used 1 battery bar, and that is on some pretty serious hills today. All right, let me drive back to the house and we will wrap up this review. Well, that concludes a 16-mile bike ride, and those miles were certainly not easy miles, and we just used one blip on the battery meter. So this bike is definitely able to push that kind of a mile for at least 30 miles and probably even closer to 40. Now, if you were on flat roads or smooth trails, I definitely see this getting up to the 60, 70, 80 mile range like it's rated to. But those miles were definitely not standard for the average bike rider, I have a feeling. As far as riding this in town goes, it's definitely a little tricky doing a lot of starting and stopping, because when you use the pedals, it takes just a moment for that motor to kick in and you go. Whereas if you're using the throttle up here, it will actually take off pretty quick. So I kind of like using that in town, and then the pedals whenever I'm out in the country just riding around. So I now have put 76 miles on this e-bike, and it has done very well. Seat's a little hard, and this bar right here will definitely get you if you're not careful. Other than that, I'm definitely pleased with this. I'm going to be giving this to my brother now that I have finished these reviews. But if you want to check out more information on the Hovsco HovAlpha 26-inch, I'll have a link to this in the description down below. I'm Seth with Land House, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.